Hearing part 3. I have a nice surprise. There's 2 nice verses by Sanatana Goswami from his Krishna Lila Stava. We heard the other day the number of books that he wrote. This is one of them. It's just a collection of stavas or prayers related to Krishna Lila. So, would you like to sing this? Yeah. Can you see it?
Atini chochataraka Anamuncha kadachinmam Premna hritkanthayospura.
Very nice translation. Oh, Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, giver of saintliness to the unsaintly. Oh, uplifter of the very fallen. Please, do not ever leave me. Please become manifested upon my heart and my throat, accompanied by pure love of Krishna. That's number 417. And all this book is just prayers like this. Here's the previous one, or next one. It's from 417. Now?
Madheka bandho matsangim
Madheka bandhu matsangim
Madguru manmahadhana
Manmano mahadana
Manishtaraka madbhagya Madananda namostute.
Oh, Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, my only friend. Oh, my companion. Oh, my teacher. Oh, my great wealth. Oh, my deliverer. Oh, my good fortune. Oh, my bliss. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I'll just remind you of something we heard the other day. I liked very much. When he was just a young boy, 16-year-old boy, he had a dream. In his dream, a Brahmana came to him in his dream and gave him a handwritten copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, because we mentioned this. There was no printing press. It was just copies were handwritten copies. No commentary, just the Bhagavatam verses. And when he woke up, he was astonished what happened in his dream, and even more astonishing was the next morning, after he finished his morning duties, that very same Brahmana came to him and gave him the Srimad Bhagavatam. So from 16 years of age, he understood there was a clear message. He dedicated himself to the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he had a nice teacher. Vidya Vachaspati, we heard this. So he learned Srimad Bhagavatam from a very learned Brahmana from his youth, and his whole life was dedicated in the same way. So he was a Srimad Bhagavatam lover. Now, some of the rest of us, or most of the rest of us, encountered Srimad Bhagavatam a little bit later in our life, after we were 16. But, there's some persons in the room that when they were very young, even before 16, they at least had Srimad Bhagavatam, but my teacher, my great wealth, my deliverer, my good fortune, my companion, my only friend. So this Bhagavatam is everything for him. Of course, there's prayers to Lord Chaitanya, etc., etc. but most meaningful source of inspiration within him and in his life, in all of his association and all of his activities, guided by Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm going to ask for at least, well, let's see how many volunteers we get. I requested before we ended yesterday evening for a person that would wanted to memorize 10, 12, 11, the Krita Punya Punja verse. As one person volunteered. So would you like to recite it? Go ahead.
Itham satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena maya shritanam naradarakena sakam vijaharu krita punya punjaha.
Did anybody else remember it? Memorize it? Okay. Yes? Go ahead. You got the microphone? Slowly, as she did, slowly, like this.
I might not be able to read in meter, but I'll try my best.
Okay, you do your best. That's what we can do.
Itam satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradevatena maya shritanam naradarakena sakam vrija punya punja.
Let's say it together. Itam satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena maya
shritanam naradarakena sakam vijayahu krita punya punja.
So this is one of those verses that, along with memorizing, is meditating on the meaning. And one of the inspirations, for me at least, one of the inspirations is in relation to Shukadeva Goswami himself. As you know from the first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva had many students, but he wanted a student that could appreciate the mood along with the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he looked to his son because he understood his qualification. Not only he was fixed in Brahman realization, but he was able to taste the sweetness, the rasa of Srimad Bhagavatam. He was a prema bhakta. And there's references that he looked to Shukadeva Goswami, although he was his son, as his superior. And others who look at the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva is the compiler, but Shukadeva Goswami is the speaker. So here he is describing the childhood pastimes of Krishna with the cowherd boys. And he practically enters into a state of suspended trance. He stops speaking about their activities, and because he's meditating on the intimacy that they have with Krishna, and then this explosion of realization or ecstasy comes from him. And while honoring and honoring and honoring, there's nothing like these cowherd boys. Now, it's not to say that his rasa is a cowherd boy. He has profound appreciation for the residents of Vrindavan. And amongst the residents of Vrindavan, he's speaking about the cowherd boys because that's the pastime age of Krishna. And how special, super, triple special. So the happiness of Brahmasuk, the Gyanis, who have realized the happiness of Brahman, which is but a drop in comparison to Parabrahman or the Bhagavan feature. There are those that have realization of the Bhagavan feature in opulence, in the Vaikuntha mood of dasya, servitorship to the Supreme Lord, para daivatena. There are those that are have taken shelter of Maya, and they can't understand him at all. But what to speak of what happened? What to speak of the cowherd boys? How special, super special that they are in comparison to Gyanis, Vaikuntavasis, what to speak of materially absorbed people. They're so special, and how special, who can say, how many lifetimes of undivided devotional service they have rendered. So that was verse number 11. We ended with verse number 12, and we're about to begin the third section. So verse number 13. My dear King Parikshit, thereafter there appeared a great demon named Aghasura, whose death was being awaited even by the demigods. That's why the demigods showered flowers, because they knew he was a really bad guy. The demigods drank nectar every day, Amrita, but still they feared this great demon and awaited his death. So the Amrita, they didn't have immortality. They feared death. They had lived a long life, Soma Rasa, drank Soma Rasa regularly, but this demon could not tolerate the transcendental pleasure being enjoyed in the forest by the cowherd boys. Question. This is by our commentators. How could Krishna's pastimes be interrupted by a demon? Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains, Leela Shakti of the Lord. Here's this Leela Shakti language again. Seeing that the bliss of the boys from playing was increasing and increasing at every moment, and it was not possible for them to stop playing, Leela Shakti, understanding all of this, seeing that without stopping playing they could not eat, and that eating time had already passed. Also seeing that it was necessary to kill the demon, Krishna's Leela Shakti brought the Aghasura demon towards the boys, inspiring him through Paramatma. There's just teamwork. So Paramatma is the Antaryami, the super soul within, and even Paramatma giving a signal, or Leela Shakti understanding through Paramatma. So the painting is going to show up on the screen momentarily. There's the picture up on the upper side of the painting. There's Aghasura, and Aghasura also has Paramatma within his heart. So the Paramatma within Aghasura's heart inspired him, prompted by Leela Shakti, to come down from the hilly area up there and give problem to the cowherd boys. It was time for the cowherd boys to have lunch. And it being interrupting their play was necessary so they could have their lunch. And it worked. Jiva Goswami comments, the Devatas, though they had drunk nectar, were fearful of death. There it is again. And thus waited for Aghasura's weak point, thinking, when and how will he die? So they're anxious. Sridhar Swami, great commentator. The meaning can be, even though the devatas were fully absorbed in liberation, Amrita, they waited his death. They wanted to live long in order to see Krishna's pastimes. And he goes on, further commentary. They were without death because of accepting bodies for pastimes, or their subtle and gross bodies were without destruction. It is said even the liberated accept forms and participate in the pastimes. The devatas were expecting these pastimes. So there's a lot of attention spent just in that little comment in one verse that the demigods were eager to see Aghasura being killed. So now back to the verse. Aghasura, who had been sent by Kamsa, was the younger brother of Putana and Bakasura. You want to change something? You're okay? Not yet. Okay. So here's the verse number 14. Therefore, when he came and saw Krishna at the head of the cowherd boys, he thought, this Krishna has killed my sister and brother, Putana and Bakasura. Therefore, in order to please them both, revenge, I shall kill this Krishna along with his assistants, the other cowherd boys. So he's very clear and explicit. Next verse. No, this is commentary, excuse me. Aghasura thought, if somehow or other I can make Krishna and his associates serve as the last offering of sesame and water for the departed souls of my brother and sister, then the inhabitants of Brajabhumi, for whom these boys are the life and soul, will automatically die. If there's no life, there's no need for the body. Consequently, when their sons are dead, naturally all the inhabitants of Braja will die. He's a very calculating fellow. After thus deciding, the crooked Aghasura assumed the form of a huge python, as thick as a mountain, and there's the 8 miles long dimension. And lots of interesting graphics that show how big this guy is. Having assumed this wonderful python's body, he spread his mouth like a big cave in the mountains and lay down on the road expecting to swallow Krishna and his associates, the cowherd boys. Resolving thus, at that moment he spread himself out without moving, since he was a cheating killer who could easily swallow them all by tricky means. He would swallow them all once, since he was a python, at once. Or he was cruel with a proclivity for eating such boys. Big mouth. His lower lip rested on the surface of the earth, and his upper lip was touching the clouds in the sky. If you have a body that's 8 miles long, it makes sense. 8 miles long. The borders of his mouth resembled the sides of a big cave in a mountain, and the middle of his mouth was as dark as possible. I'm waiting for it's a nice picture. Did you see the picture? Yes, yes. Already you saw it. Okay, we're moving on. His tongue resembled a broad traffic way. His breath was like a warm wind, and his eyes blazed like fire. Upon seeing this demon's wonderful form, there it is, which resembled a great python, the boys thought, must be a beautiful scenic spot in Vrindavan. Somebody made a nice playground for us. So there's the big, big mouth. Thereafter, they imagined it to be similar to the mouth of a great python. In other words, the boys, unafraid, thought that it was a statue made in the shape of a great python for the enjoyment of their pastimes. Some of the boys, seeing Aghasura, started to run away, thinking it was a big snake. Other boys, this is Vishwanath, other boys, however, considered that Aghasura was one of the wonders of Vrindavan. He continues, they comforted their fearful friends by saying, "Oh, fools, a snake can never be this big. If it's something created by the Lord out of clay, so that we can appreciate the splendor of Vrindavan even more. He has made it in this form, in the form of a huge snake with a big, gaping snout." Next verse. Dear friends, is this creature dead? Or is it actually a living python with its mouth spread wide open just to swallow us all? Kindly clear up this doubt. Next verse. Thereafter they decided, dear friends, this is certainly an animal sitting here to swallow us all. Its upper lip resembles a cloud, reddened by the sunshine, and its lower lip resembles the reddish shadows of a cloud. On the left and right, the two depressions resembling mountain caves are the corners of its mouth, and the high mountain peaks are its teeth. In length and breadth, the animal's tongue resembles a broad traffic way, and the inside of its mouth is very, very dark, like a cave in a mountain. Sanatana Goswami comments. In Vrindavan, because of unlimited cows wandering about, it appeared that there was a wide road naturally everywhere. Next verse. The hot, fiery wind is the breath coming out of its mouth, which is giving off a bad smell of burning flesh because of all the dead bodies he has eaten. The boys then said, has this living creature come to swallow us? If he does so, he will immediately be killed, like Aghasura, without delay. Thus they looked at the beautiful face of Krishna, the enemy of Aghasura, and laughing loudly and clapping their hands, they entered the mouth of the python. The B.G. Sharma classic painting. His style is very noticeable. Together this is Vishwanath, together they spoke with a little fear. This thing, if this is really a snake, and we enter his mouth, will he swallow us up? Someone then answered to calm them down. If it is so, then in an instant he will be killed as Baka was killed by Krishna. Saying such words, they smiled while looking at Krishna, who was standing some distance away quote, Krishna is within our glance, so what have we to worry? Then they entered the mouth out of boyish curiosity. And there they go again. This is a copy of a B.G. Sharma painting, and Krishna is looking over the whole scene in the background. Jiva Goswami writes, or they looked at Krishna's face and laughed loudly to show that what they had said was a joke, implying to Krishna, you should be careful here. And so there was a question. Now there's further explanation by Vishwanath, but he's a cheating killer. And here's Bhakti Siddhantas. He has a lot to say about this. Aghasura epitomizes cruelty and violence. It is possible for love to suffer gradual decay by the absence of kindness for all animate beings. This must be so, inasmuch as kindness can never be a different principle from love, from Krishna. There's no substantive difference between love for Krishna and kindness to individual souls. Very nice. And it's so abrasive, at least for me, it's so abrasive. Just doesn't matter. I travel maybe too much, and wherever I travel, the eating establishments are all products of violence. And violence and violence and violence and violence. It's out of sight, but the behavior of eating is the product of violence. And violence and violence and violence, so that the slaughterhouses and without going into it, it's painful. How can there be love of God in the world? How can there be peace in the world, peace and prosperity in the world? The reaction of Mother Nature is going to hammer these people. Here's Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Whoops. Sri Krishna's activities are of two distinct types. Eternal, or Nitya Lila, and occasional, Naimittika Lila. In Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna's Nitya Lila, or eternal pastimes, are conducted through 8 periods of the day. They are constantly in motion. But in Bhoma Vrindavan, Krishna's Nitya Lila is mixed with the Naimittika Leelas, or occasional pastimes. Interesting artwork, huh? But, some occasional pastimes include Krishna's leaving Vrindavan to live in Mathura and Dwarka, his returning to Braja, his killing various demons, and so forth. That's in the Naimittika, or occasional, category. These pastimes are very useful for an aspiring devotee who is bound within the material world. The Naimittika Leela, or occasional pastimes of leaving Braja, actually exist in Goloka, but only in a conspicuously absent manner. They are truly manifest only in the material world. Now, this is a curious phrase. Something such and such is conspicuous by its absence. Like, it's really noticeable that something just isn't there. That's conspicuous by its absence. Practicing devotees, that's us, sadhakas, understand these occasional pastimes to be like negatively tinted reflections of the eternal pastimes. The reflections, okay, that's easy. There's the object and the reflection of the object. But the negatively tinted reflections. Well, Prabhupada's phrase was perverted reflections. Here it's negatively tinted reflections. So it has unsavory features in the worldly manifestation. Killing of the demon Aghasura symbolizes removing the sinful activities of violence toward living entities or torturing others due to hatred. Sincere devotees hope that by the influence of understanding the purpose of Krishna's performance of different occasional pastimes, their own various anarthas or unwanted material contaminations will be destroyed. That is to say, just by hearing the pastimes at whatever stage of realization in Krishna consciousness we may be, the propensity, the negatively tinted propensity to do detriment to other living entities is taken away. That is to say, the love of God is awakened, and then the negative tendency towards other living entities is removed. Now here's a reference. We had this back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, kind of like a ping pong tournament, about Garga Samhita. And there's something on this side and there's something on that side, and you can make your own pan scale decision. But here's something from Garga Samhita about the previous life of Aghasura. Bahulashva, the king of Mithila, inquired from Narada Muni, who was this demon in his previous birth that he was able to enter Lord Krishna's abode? Meaning, at the end of the pastime, he's liberated. More specifically, the type of liberation is identified as Sayuja, not Sayuja, Sarupya. But it's said specifically by our acharyas because he was not eligible for Braja. He didn't attain a position in Braja. He didn't do any service. Putana came at least and did some service. But Aghasura didn't do any service. It's just wicked. And so he got liberation, but his liberation was in Vaikuntha. So he merged into the body of Krishna, and then from that position attained the spiritual sky. But in Vaikuntha, not in Goloka. That's what our acharyas have to say. Simply by hating Krishna, the demon quickly attained Lord Krishna. Narada is giving the answer to King Bahulashva. O king, he was Shankachuda's son. Who's Shankachuda? Who knows Shankachuda? You've heard his name, Shankachuda, before? It's in the 10th canto Bhagavatam. And he's a fellow, a very rich, wealthy fellow. Somehow the treasurer gets to be a wealthy guy. And Shankachuda was a follower of Kuvera, the treasurer of heaven. So he was also wealthy and really proud. So he got this nice idea. Krishna's enjoying the gopis. I should enjoy the gopis. So he tried to kidnap the gopis right in the middle of Rasa dance. That's Shankachuda. So we're speaking here of Shankachuda's son. His name was Agha. He was young, strong, and very handsome. He was like another Kamadev. We'll just pretend that it's working. There's a nice painting of, there it is. Oh, there it goes. Ashtavakra. Ashta means 8. And what are you going to do? Okay, fine. It's fine with me. Ashta means 8. And Vakra means he was bent. He was bent in 8 places. He was a Brahmana who had a disfigured body. When he saw, this is Agha, who was the son of Shankachuta, when he saw Ashtavakra walking in by the side of the Malaya hills, Agha laughed at him. Who is this ugly person? Then the sage cursed the demon. Oh, wicked-hearted one, you'll become a snake. You'll become the ugliest snake in the circle of the earth. Agha had a little humility lesson. Seeing that the demon, his pride and arrogance now gone, had fallen at his feet, the sage became pleased and gave him a benediction. Ashtavakra said, Sri Krishna, who is more handsome than many millions of Kamadevs, will enter your stomach. Then you'll be freed from having a snake's form. Yeah.
Might be a button which screen of the presenter.
What do you want me to do?
In your PowerPoint, there might be a menu item called switch screen because we are seeing the presenter view. Font is Can you look at the screen? It's like
I'm done. This, you see, this is the end of part 3. It's presentation over. But he and I have been doing this like a bunch, and we haven't had this problem, and I haven't changed any settings on my screen. But, if you want to come and fiddle with it afterwards, fine with me. The thing's it's got an illness. We'll see if we can fix the illness before tomorrow night. So tomorrow night we're going to do part 4. That's, the conclusion. Krishna is going to finish Aghasura tomorrow night. It's a nice meditation. I mean, many, many nice things in this nice meditation. Let's go back to the Krita Punya Punja verse. Shukadeva Goswami, the narrator, because he's being asked by Maharaj Parikshit different questions. So he's responsive to Maharaj Parikshit. Shukadeva Goswami knows the circumstance. Maharaj Parikshit's about to die in 7 days by some divine arrangement, super soul's arrangement, that he did what he did and it was completely out of character for him. So he's cursed to die. He's going to die. And he wants to know what to do. When you know that you're going to die, what's your duty? The message is, hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Hear Srimad Bhagavatam and send your computer signal through this technology effort, and that's what you do when you're about to die. So he's just narrating gifting to Maharaj Parikshit the means of lifting his consciousness towards Krishna and immersed in Krishna just by his words. And so we're bystanders in one sense because we're getting to hear what Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit exchanged with one another. But the same effect is there because who knows? And he had 7 days. We don't know. We have 7 minutes. And we may think, well, something, but we don't know. And it's not like, we don't know, so you become gripped with fear. But what do you do when you don't know? Then so you take shelter of that which is known. And so the eternal personality of Godhead, just repeating what we already know. The eternal personality of Godhead appears in this world to attract the hearts and minds of living entities like us that are caught in the grip of the illusory energy, and to draw our attention from that grip to transcendence. These pastimes are enacted, and loving exchanges that are powerful, very sweet, and very charming, and very powerful. Powerful enough to remove coverings and awaken our original consciousness, depending upon our position, because he's the source of everything. And he has a way of stimulating love with different living entities according to their position, etc., etc. But the outcome is to become attracted to take shelter of Krishna. And why? Let me count the ways. The knowing the object of love inspires love. So we're hearing this feature, that feature, the other feature of the object of love, and he's most clearly lovable. And I can share this little bit with you, and then I'm going to end. Because I have become quite familiar with this topic. Sometimes in dreams, I'm dreaming of the topic. And including some of the images that keep disappearing from the screen periodically, but nice images of the pastimes, like coming up just after all of this series and Brahma Vimohan Leela and Lord Brahma's prayers comes the Kaliya Leela, Aghasura and Kaliya Leela. And like it's one variety, another variety is it's a river with waves and just so attractive. I'm really looking forward to those upcoming ones. It's going to be the end of this month in Aghasura. There's 7 parts to the Kaliya Leela. This is 4. That has 7. This is 1 chapter. That spans 2 chapters. Because included in that chapter is the prayers of the wives of a Kaliya serpent. And just like the prayers of Lord Brahma, that took 6 classes. The prayers of Lord Brahma, they're really wonderful. He's Lord Brahma. And he's just been blown away, as they say conventionally. He got his mind blown, and he has these realizations of Krishna beyond his realizations before, and his attraction for the residents of Vrindavan is he wants to take his next birth in Vrindavan, just to be in the association of the Vrijbasis, and in whatever species of life. It's very similar to Uddhava and his visit to Vrindavan, and he ends up praying to become a blade of grass so that the dust from the feet of the gopis can touch his head, and he can be benedicted from the dust of their feet. And he, they're village girls, and he's, from the royal family, living in Mathura, the capital, and going into the village, wishing to become a blade of grass to have the dust from their feet touch his head. I mean, the glorification is, if you start to consider who these people are and what they're saying, and what was the impact of being in the company of the resident of Vrindavan. Shoo. And how is that going to be accessed by us? By sound. And it's not different. I mean, different. It's not different. The spiritual potency is not different. And may we become eligible to experience these wonderful pastimes directly as these personalities are experiencing. And there's a method of how to get there. It's just what we're doing. As simple as that. Okay, part 4 tomorrow night. Stay tuned. We'll see if we can fix the technology problem. Maybe that hardware piece? Anyway, you'll figure it out. You figure it out. Any comments or questions? Yes. Do we have a microphone? We have a microphone. Look at this.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful.
You're a teenager. You know how to turn microphones on.
Pressed in. It didn't turn on the first time.
Okay.
My question was regarding some information that you had on one of the earlier slides about, I think it was the demigods who were showering flowers.
Yeah.
On Aghasura's dead body.
Yeah. Well, they were celebrating the fact they wanted to see this guy gone, and they couldn't do it, but Krishna did it. So they're celebrating. The flowers are upon Krishna.
Yeah. So in the slide, I misinterpreted it, but it was saying that they were liberated, and I think the word immortal might have been used, or immortality.
Yeah. It's because here's how it goes. In the heavenly realm, they drink amrita. A common expression of that is, for example, soma rasa. It's a kind of amrita. And amrita, in a literal sense, can mean immortality. But they just have longevity. They don't have immortality. So it's not really immortality in the absolute sense, but they live a long, long life. And one of the ways they do that is this amrita that they drink. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank you.
All the way in the back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I actually have 2 questions.
2, okay.
The first of which is, there was a slide previously where it mentioned that the killing of Aghasura is symbolic or represents something along the lines of violence towards devotees, or...
Okay, I'll find the slide. Keep going.
So my question was, is there a particular type of violence towards others that is commonly overlooked that devotees should be more aware of?
Is there something that you and I might do that's in that same category of violence?
Yeah, that might generally be overlooked or not generally considered as violence towards others.
Well, there's degrees. And let's say we're not Jains. Jains wear masks because when you breathe, the microorganisms go in, and so they've got a mask to keep microorganisms from going in because they're absolute not, they're tried for absolute nonviolence. Prabhupada's teaching on the nonviolence point is for a Kshatriya, violence is part of their duty. It's to curb wrongdoers. And so the wrongdoers need to be curbed. And so violence has its place. But for us, which is what your question is, I can't understand. In the course of service, here's a little, I like this one. This is from Los Angeles. Prabhupada said, we don't walk on grass unless it's for the service of Krishna. Because the grass and the living entities living within the grass and so forth and so on, in service to Krishna, if it's provided the service to Krishna, then it's something is justified. So, like, let's take where we are. There's communities of lots of homes, and this one and all over the place. And what was it before? It was forest, and they had to clear the forest. What did they do? Chop down the trees. They leave some trees because it's nice decoration, but like if that's violence. And what about a devotee? Is it okay to build a house, and to build the house, there's some trees have to be removed? Yes, but the principle for us to live by is service to Krishna at the center or not? Here's a little Prabhupadism. I was told by the devotees that served closely with Srila Prabhupada that when he received letters in envelopes, he would save the envelope and open up the envelope and write on the inside of the envelope. Because he didn't like cut trees unnecessarily. In part because of his upbringing, and it was not with opulence as exists in the West. So many persons born up in the West, they don't think about it. But he was careful. I'm going to say a little pet peeve. A little pet peeve is how in America we use paper towels, not cloth, because cloth dries, but use paper towels and then toss them away. And then it's unnecessary. I mean, it's minor, but it's a kind of leading into violence, because where does the paper come from? Chop down the trees. And it's like an industry. Chop down the trees and treat it and make paper and make paper towels, and people chuck them without thinking about it. Sometimes, when I distribute Mahaprasadam, I go to wash my hand in the kitchen, and there's like 5 paper towels. I don't like to take paper towels. I've got a big napkin. Or, often there's a cloth in the kitchen, or you'd rather use the cloth in the kitchen because it'll dry. It's just little things, do we do, back to your question, do we do things that's acts of violence that we're not necessarily paying attention to? Definitely the lifestyle is a lifestyle of violence. Unnecessary. In service to Krishna, okay. And then even in service to Krishna is what's necessary. It doesn't have to be obsessive, but conscious of respect, of life, of others. Then there's so many other harsh speech. When it's it's causing pain for others. So we do all kinds of things that are cruel, unnecessarily cruel, thoughtlessly, just because of our conditioning. And so we can't just be fanatics, but we have to be conscious and move in the direction of very much what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said. Let's go. There's no substantive difference between love for Krishna and kindness to individual souls. Here's an application. I'm going off, but you're asking a nice question, and I'm sensitive to it. There is a devotee whose name is Sri Radhika, and her good husband Jamuna Jivana have been. She just came back from a 9-part seminar in Toronto on nonviolent communication, NVC. You've heard that acronym before? Little education. Came back from a 9-part seminar in Toronto on nonviolent communication, NVC. You've heard that acronym before? Because you're asking. Rosen from Arizona or to school, nonviolent communication, and developed a school. That's whole school, like education, and people came to attend a school, and how to speak in such a way you speak the truth. It's Bhagavad Gita nonviolence, because that's the question. Speak the truth palatably, and don't speak otherwise. Around 1715 Bhagavad Gita. So he developed a school, and Veer Krishna Maharaj liked the message because he understood it's a unnecessary violence that devotees indulge in or are conditioned by. So he took the course and then Krishnaized it. And then we invited him to come to Gita Nagari for 2 sessions, like 3 days sessions on empathic communication. Sri Radhika really liked it. Now she and her husband are teaching it all over the country, and in some places in Europe, because it's a type of violence that's unnecessary. It's important. So you back to your question: are there types of violence that we engage in? Yes. Physical as well as emotional and verbal, body, mind, words. So here's the phrase again. It's on the screen. Look at that. It works. There's no substance and difference between love for Krishna and kindness to individual souls. So kindness to the soul takes into consideration the covering of the soul. It's gross and subtle. It's a big question. I like the question because we're not refined. We just mindlessly do stuff because that's what you do. You do stuff. And thinking about it without being obsessive, just being conscious, Krishna conscious, there's so many things. Yeah. Do you have something further? You have a second question?
I had a second question, but it's not related to the first one.
Okay. He's got a question up front then. Huh?
I was going to Not this quote.
Okay, fine. It's fine with me. Here comes the microphone. Ujjwal will come back. He's got the microphone up here.
I really like this slide. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is quoted by His Holiness Satsarup Das Goswami Maharaj in the Vaishnava Compassion book that he wrote, where the quote I remember is, love for Bhagwan manifests as bhakti, and that same tendency towards every jiva manifests as compassion, which kind of rhymes with the last.
Yeah, same.
But I hadn't seen that first sentence, which is very profound, that it is possible for love to suffer gradual decay by the absence of kindness for all animate beings. It occurs so subtly that you don't realize, one can not realize that one's genuine feeling of love for something is gone. So it really requires, from what I see there, definite presence, what people call mindfulness, but we don't call it that, but a heightened awareness of how all beings are in some way carrying Krishna within them, and they have a spiritual journey, and we should be mindful of that. Well, anyways, that was just my comment on this.
Okay. I like what you said. I don't have anything to add. We're going to go all the way, way in the back corner. Musical microphones today. You got to hit that magic button.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. You always mention that we are all Rupa Goswami's followers, right? We are all Rupangas. So question is like, does the practices of Rupa Goswami...
Hold the microphone just a little bit further from your mouth. Great.
Rupa Goswami's practices, does it include Vaidhi Bhakti also?
Of course.
So what kind of practices does we do for Vaidhi Bhakti?
Why are you asking this question? You know the answer. Why are you asking the question? We Hare Krishna followers are engaged in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. That's what we do. And we're trying to do. So I'm unclear what you're asking or why you're asking what you're asking. We live our life as devotees, and we follow the vidhis of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So you want a list of vidhis? It's a long list. Let's start with get up in the morning. There's a vidhi.
Yeah.
And then after that and after that throughout the day. So could you want to restate your question so that I can...
Yeah, I think I got, just want to confirm, like, it includes Vaidhi Bhakti as part of the...
How we live our life.
Yeah.
We do sadhana according to the vidhis. That's Vaidhi. It's an adjective. Vidhis is a noun. Vaidhi is the adjective. We follow the vidhis by Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. I have a comment and a question. So one comment is that in the initial slides, it was mentioned when the Gopas were so curious to go inside the mouth, they were saying Krishna is just a glance away, or we are...
Yes.
And if Krishna is within our glance, what do we have to worry? So it was very relatable and it's very hope-giving.
Yeah.
I really
That's
like
the
that.
confidence they have in him.
Yes, so that was wonderful. So that's my comment. My question was when you were talking about the different kinds of leelas and there was occasional leelas, and they were referred as perverted reflections or
Negatively perverted,
Yes.
negatively tinted.
Yes, that has a negative connotation to it, and it's the first time I'm hearing a leela connected like that.
Okay, I got it. It's not material activities, it's lila. Negatively tinted lila? That's your question. It's a nice question. Because I spoke about it not in terms of Leela being negatively tinted, but the material world is a reflection. It's had a perverted reflection. That's the language I used. It's negatively tinted, but it's not negatively tinted material activities. It's Leela. I'll go back and read that section and report it tomorrow night. I've got a homework assignment. Nice catch. Nice catch. Yes?
So I, like many others, have really appreciated this specific Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur commentary. Especially, I have a question on that last part as well. There's no substantive difference between love for Krishna and kindness to individual souls. And historically, growing up, I just remember hearing that typically kindness to individual souls is expressed by us as reminding ourselves and other jivas of our relationship, our constitutional relationship that we have to each other and then also to Lord Krishna. But just thinking about and reflecting on my work and some of the things that I do every day, I may not be in a position to offer that kind of direct kindness, so to speak, or share that intimate relationship that we all have with Krishna. And so I was wondering if you could further define and elaborate on the scope of kindness in context to this phrase.
Okay. You keep it simple. I like keeping things simple. It's inside. And if it's inside, it comes out. The way that you regard other people as opposed to, means to achieve something you want to achieve that's me-centered. But if aside from the particular profession that one is in, if the consciousness that you're carrying is this, then it's going to come out in how you do what you do. So and you didn't phrase your question in terms of the particular occupation that you do every day, and it's quite okay because it's not really germane to everybody in the room. But the principle I'm responding is, if it's inside, it comes out. I'll just do it like a flip. And the flip for me, from my experience is, I travel a lot, and that's one of the ways that people get an impression of a Hare Krishna guide or the Hare Krishna movement from my speech and conduct and behavior. And, different people are different. So some people, are quite accepting, and some people their head moves back like, this guy's a freak or something. That's like they feel uncomfortable. So it's not so much. If somebody drops a pen on the floor, help them pick up the pen that fell on the floor or something. It's a matter of, all kinds of interaction. I'll just share one. In the course of travel from Chicago to Portland, I had this little USB stick, and it fell on the floor of the the airplane. So I was looking with my. Then the person behind me was also looking on the floor with his, and then I found it. So, there it is. So he saw it, what it looked like, and then it fell out again. And I spent about 20 minutes, and it turns out he was sitting on it. The guy right next to me, he didn't know it. I didn't know it, but he was sitting on it. The lady behind. So how I was interacting with the whole situation was remaining very calm. But I said, the fellow said, "What are you looking? You're looking for that thing again?" Yeah, I know what it looks like. I haven't seen it. So you must have a lot of important data on that little thing. I said, yeah. I don't know how I'm going to recover all that data on that little thing, that little USB. And then there were like 3 people besides myself looking for that little thing. And then when he stood up, we're getting off the plane, and he stood up to get his luggage from up top. There it was on his seat. And he held it up, and a big smile. And I punched him in the arm. I said, "You had it all along." So, I'm making this comment in terms of the response to your question. If there's a sense of feeling for others that don't know Krishna, they don't know Hare Krishna, they don't know, they're just busy doing what they do. But if some way that's inside me that can impact another person who I'm interacting with, or this case was like the lady behind was also on the floor looking for that little USB. So, and then when it was found, I showed her, here it is. I said, oh. So, Krishna, this worldly activity, but done in a way that's, exemplary of what a Vaishnava should do, or could do, and carrying thankfulness that people were engaged in help, not just helping me find my USB stick, but engaged in Krishna service, because that's all that I do. So that's a little. There's many other little type of examples, but when you're in the world, you're not a sannyasi traveling from one place to another place like I do, but you in an office or doing what you do, and you're carrying Krishna bhakti, and that can impact in ways that it's maybe hard to measure, but if you're conscious of this is important, that I carry Krishna in my heart, and I convey myself in ways that a Krishna devotee will convey themselves. That there's some, back to his question about vidhis, I'm going to speak the truth. And speak the truth palatably, and, to do things that are what a Vaishnava would do. And if I'm asked to do otherwise, it's they're not going to ask me, because I'm just not going to do stuff. Whatever that means, whatever the outcome of that is, because it's who I am. You just live your life that way. It's subliminal in one sense, but it's powerful in another sense. And we don't have to carry a Bhagavad Gita stick in our hand and whack people or something. That kind of fire and brimstone Hare Krishna preachers, but just you'll live the life. Because it's inside and then it comes out. And then what will happen, not always, but sometimes what will happen is people will ask, what's going on with you? I've had people ask, like, you're so calm, and Where do you get that? How do I get that? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when people ask such questions, then they're opening the door. Then you be careful, don't say too much. But, you say what's inside. And you're a little perambulatory Bhagavad Gita person in the world. Showing by example, speaking by example, teaching by example, living by example. And that the population needs more such people. Let me be one of those people, according to your position, each of us. And it's powerful. The opposite is also, the demoniac nature is also very powerful and it's very popular and very common, and it proliferates. So goodness also proliferates, or transcendence proliferates. Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Krishna leaving Vraja is conspicuous by its absence. The comment from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I didn't understand. Can you elaborate on that?
Is this from Bhaktisiddhanta's statements? Where are you reading from?
In the Naimittika Leela
This is
section.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur's stuff. Is this the slide? No? Next, this is it? Okay. The Naimittika Leela, or occasional pastimes of leaving Braja, actually exist in Goloka, but only in a conspicuously absent manner. So he doesn't leave Goloka. But that bhava is within Krishna. So the manifestation is conspicuously absent, but the bhava is there. Like the anticipation of Krishna may depart, but he doesn't depart. So it's conspicuously absent, but there's a bhava. Emotion, an ecstatic emotion that Krishna may leave. It's okay? There she goes.
Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. I had two questions.
Two questions.
One was from the morning and one was from now. I'll start with the one from now. Like, I had a question on did Kamsa send Aghasura, or he came because he knew that Putana and Bakasura had died?
You want to know, did Kamsa send Aghasura? Kamsa sent Aghasura. Aghasura was a very willing instrument. And, in addition to Kamsa's reason to protect his backside, he had another reason: get back, revenge. He had double reason. But he was happy to be sent. But he was sent. Okay? Second question.
Second question was, how did the boys, if Aghasura was so big, how did the Kahur boys play more in the
You asked this question. How did he bifurcate Bakasura's beak?
No.
You remember that question?
No, it was
Bakasura, you remember that question? Yeah. So, and I said, there's no explicit explanation, but a possible explanation is, Mahima Siddhi, Krishna became really big. And because he became really big, he was able to bifurcate his beak, which was really big. But it doesn't say that. It's not that Aghasura got small. So it's same. Okay? But Krishna, specifically in this Leela, Krishna's body got big. So big that Aghasura, 8-mile long guy with a body that is upper jaw is in the heavenly planets, and Krishna got so big that he suffocated. Big. That answer your question? Okay. Mahima Siddhi. Okay. Yeah, one more. You get the last one.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So one thing common between Vatsasura, Bakasura, Aghasura is the sage's benediction. They all three were cursed, and because of benediction, they got Krishna's mercy. I just was reflecting on that. I had a comment on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's line as well, but maybe tomorrow I'll ask.
Okay. You're not asking a question, you're making a comment.
Comment, yes.
Yeah.
I had a larger question, but I'll.
Okay. We'll wait for the larger question. So, we're getting a benediction. We heard several times, just by hearing these pastimes, there's a benediction. One who narrates or one who hears, all spiritual desires will be fulfilled. It doesn't say like, snap your fingers and now they're all spiritual desires are fulfilled. But there's a potency within, there's a benediction, a phala of hearing, and spiritual desires become fulfilled. All spiritual desires. That's like amazing. So let's go on hearing tomorrow. We'll complete tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.